The sun rose gently over the land of Umuaka, spilling its golden light across the red earth. The clay walls of the huts glowed warmly, and smoke curled lazily from cooking fires. Palm trees swayed as if whispering blessings into the morning. Children ran barefoot through the village square, chasing chickens and laughing freely, their joy echoing like birdsong. Life seemed simple, untouched by sorrow. But every village carries a secret, every people a story buried beneath their peace, a story waiting to awaken. In this village lived Oma, daughter of Chief Anin, the wealthiest man in Umaka. Oma was no ordinary maiden. Her beauty was like the first rain after drought, long awaited, refreshing, impossible to ignore. When she walked past, men stumbled over their words. Her skin gleamed like polished wood rubbed with palm oil. Her eyes were deep as midnight, and her voice flowed soft like the river breeze at dawn. The women whispered about her as they pounded yam or fetched water from the stream. The gods took their time when they shaped Oma, they said, their eyes following her with awe and envy. Suitors came from every corner of the land, farmers boasting of yam barns that could feed 100 mouths, hunters arriving with lion skins draped over their shoulders, traders who clinked heavy bags of cowries. Even chiefs from neighboring villages carried gifts: goats with horns as wide as branches, jars of palm wine, and wrappers threaded with gold. But every time they came, Chief Anine turned them away. He would laugh, his big belly shaking with arrogance. Do you think my daughter is a goat to be bought with yams? Do you think her beauty is worth a handful of cowries? No. Only a man richer than I shall have her. Only one stronger than Anene will call her wife. Shamed and humiliated, the suitors would return home, their gifts rejected, their pride bruised. The elders of Umuaka grew restless. They gathered under the shade of the ancient Iroko tree, their gray heads nodding heavily as they murmured. Elder Okori spoke what the others dared not say aloud. Marriage is not sold like palm oil in the marketplace. Bride price honors the bride's family. It does not feed the father's pride. Anene's greed will summon the wrath of the gods. But Anene was deaf to their warnings. The more he rejected suitors, the more he boasted. At every palm wine feast, he pounded his chest, drunk on his own pride. No man is worthy of my daughter. The day she weds, the earth itself will tremble. And while men laughed nervously at his boasting, the elders exchanged worried glances. They knew the gods had long ears. Oma, however, said little. She sat by the fireside, her delicate fingers grinding pepper, her face calm but shadowed. Whenever talk of marriage arose, her smile faded. Her heart yearned not for gold or goats, but for love, gentle, true, and kind. But in Umuaka, a daughter's tongue was chained by her father's will. At night, when the moon bathed the village in silver, she shared her fears with her closest friend, Ene. As they braided each other's hair by the firelight, Oma whispered, "My father's pride will ruin us. I see it in my dreams, Ene. Blood, always blood." Ine shuddered, clutching the protective charms tied around her waist. "Then pray, Oma. Pray that the gods send the right man, or else they may send something far worse." The two girls sat in silence, the fire crackling between them, shadows flickering like restless spirits on the walls. By day, Umuaka bustled with laughter and song. But in the quiet corners of Oma's heart, fear grew like a dark shadow, patient, waiting. And so the elders were right to worry. For pride always calls to something beyond men. And soon, a stranger would come to Umuaka, one whose bride price would not be counted in yams, goats, or cowries, but in blood. Evening settled over Umuaka, draping the village in shades of orange and purple. Women returned from the stream balancing calabashes on their heads. Children played their last games of the day, dust rising under their feet as the sun slid toward the forest. Men gathered around fires, drinking palm wine and sharing laughter. Life felt ordinary, safe. But that night, Umwaka would receive a visitor. From the forest path came the sound of hooves, soft yet commanding. Heads turned, eyes widened. A stranger approached, unlike any man they had ever seen. He rode a dark horse draped in woven cloth, its hooves stirring the dust like smoke. He himself was clad in flowing white robes that shimmered in the dying light. His skin was pale, not in the way of sickness, but as though touched by something beyond the earth. Most striking were his eyes, dark yet glimmering faintly, as though lit by a secret fire. In his hands and on the backs of his servants were treasures that stole the villagers' breath. Heavy ivory tusks gleamed like moonlight. Ornaments of pure gold flashed in the fire's glow. Strange cowries, larger and whiter than any seen before, clinked together in bags that seemed never to empty. The people whispered among themselves, crossing their arms to their chests. Who is he? From which land does he come? His wealth, it is greater than any man in Umwaka. When Chief Anene saw him, his greedy heart leapt. His belly shook with laughter as he rushed forward to welcome the stranger. Ha! At last, a man worthy to stand before Anene, a man whose wealth shines brighter than the sun. The stranger's lips curled into a smile, thin, deliberate, unsettling. His voice was deep, smooth, like a river that hid dangerous currents beneath. I have come for your daughter, he said. The villagers gasped. No one had ever spoken with such boldness before Anine. But instead of rage, the chief's face spread into a grin. He clapped his hands together, and the sound echoed like thunder. Then you shall have her. That night, in the chief's hut, the stranger laid his gifts at Anene's feet. Gold stacked high, ivory gleaming, strange cowries piled in woven baskets. Yet when the bride price was whispered, only Anene heard it. His eyes widened for a brief moment. Then he nodded quickly, his pride drowning out his fear. No one else knew what the stranger demanded. Not the elders, not the people, not even Oma herself. But when Oma entered the hut to greet him, the stranger's eyes fell upon her, and the room grew cold. The fire dimmed, shadows stretched long across the walls. Oma's heart thudded in her chest as his gaze pierced her like a blade. She shivered, though no wind blew. She tried to lower her eyes, but some unseen force held her still. In that moment, she felt it. This was not a man of flesh and bone alone. His wealth was not merely of the earth. Something darker lingered around him, like smoke that could not be seen but could be felt. And though her father smiled with greed, Oma's spirit whispered a single truth. This marriage would not be sealed with goats or yams. It would be sealed in blood. That night, when the fires of Umuaka burned low and the laughter of the villagers faded into silence, Chief Anene rose from his bed. His wife and children slept soundly, but Anene's heart pounded like the drum of a secret festival. He wrapped a dark cloth around his shoulders and slipped out of his compound, his heavy frame surprisingly quiet against the red earth. The moon was full, staring down like a silent witness. The path to the forest shrine twisted ahead of him, lined with shadows that swayed like restless spirits. Each step seemed louder than the last. Owls hooted. A dog howled in the distance. Still, Anini walked on, driven by greed greater than fear. At the heart of the forest stood the shrine, an ancient place where villagers rarely tread at night. The wooden figures carved by long-dead priests glared with hollow eyes, and the air smelled of old sacrifices, blood, palm oil, and smoke. And there, in the silver wash of the moon, the stranger waited. But he was no longer a man in flowing white robes. His body shimmered, half solid, half shadow. His eyes burned red, glowing like hot embers. His teeth shone too sharp for any mortal mouth. The ground around him seemed to drink in the moonlight, leaving him cloaked in unnatural darkness. Anene froze, his legs trembling. For the first time in many years, pride faltered in his chest. You are not a man, he whispered. The spirit's voice rolled through the forest, deep and heavy, shaking the air itself. I am older than your fathers, Anane. I am the shadow in the blood, and I have come for what you promised. Anen swallowed, his greed battling with terror. He forced his voice steady. You spoke of bride price. Tell me, what do you ask? The spirit stepped closer, the earth hissing where his shadow touched it. Not goats, not yams, not cowries. I demand blood, the blood of your lineage. The lifeblood of your house will flow to seal this union. Anene's heart stuttered. He thought of his children. He thought of Oma. But then his pride rose like a shield. He convinced himself it was a trick. Surely I am too clever for spirits. Surely I can enjoy the wealth and escape the price. And so he nodded, greed burning brighter than fear. Yes, take what you ask. Only give me your wealth, and my daughter shall be yours. The spirit's smile widened, jagged and cruel. So it is agreed. From within his robe, the spirit pulled a small blade, black as night. He held it out, and his voice dropped like a curse. Your blood shall bind it. Anine hesitated, but the gold, the ivory, the treasures. He saw them in his mind, more dazzling than any warning of doom. With trembling hands, he took the blade. He pressed it against his palm, hissing as the skin split and blood welled up. The spirit's shadow coiled around the blood like a living snake, swallowing it whole. The forest shuddered. The shrine groaned. The wooden idols seemed to whisper with voices not their own. It is sealed, the spirit said. The blood of your house will feed me, and through your daughter I will walk among men. Anane staggered back, clutching his wounded palm. For a moment, he wondered if he had made a mistake. But then he thought of the gold gleaming in his hut, of the respect he would command, and his fear melted into foolish pride. He did not see the forest itself watching him. He did not hear the gods murmuring in anger. And he did not know that his oath had already begun to drink from the veins of his bloodline. The sun rose on the day of Oma's wedding, and the whole village of Umuaka trembled with excitement. Drums boomed from dawn, echoing through the hills. Women's voices soared in songs of celebration. Palm fronds decorated the paths, and every compound prepared food and wine as though the gods themselves were invited. Goats were slaughtered, fires roared, and the sweet scent of roasted yam and spicy pepper soup drifted through the air. Calabashes of palm wine passed from hand to hand as dancers stamped their feet in the dust, red cloth swirling like flames. The village square had never seen such grandeur. And at the center of it all sat Oma, dressed in the finest wrapper of shimmering red and gold. Cowries dangled from her wrists, beads crowned her hair, and her beauty glowed brighter than the morning sun. Yet her eyes betrayed no joy. They were cloudy, heavy with dread, as though they could already see the shadows gathering at the edges of her life. Her friends sang around her, their laughter rising above the drums. Elders raised their cups in praise of Chief Anani. Everywhere there was merriment, but within Oma's chest, her heart beat like a bird trapped in a cage. As the day faded and torches lit the square, the stranger appeared. He walked among them in his flowing white robes, smiling at the villagers who bowed in awe. His eyes glowed faintly in the firelight, but the people, drunk on wine and blinded by the splendor, saw only wealth and majesty. When the marriage rites were completed, the feast began. The drums thundered louder, the songs rose higher, and dancers spun until their feet stirred clouds of dust. Chief Anine, drunk on wine and pride, laughed louder than anyone, declaring to all, "See, my daughter weds a man greater than all suitors. Today, Anene stands above every father in Umuaka." But Oma sat still, her smile forced, her hands trembling in her lap. She dared not speak the fear that coiled inside her. Then came the night. As the last songs faded and the fires dimmed, Oma was led into the inner chamber to join her husband. The women teased her, clapping and giggling, but her steps were heavy, each one dragging like a chain. The hut was silent, a thick, eerie silence. Oma knelt, waiting. Her new husband stood before her. The torches flickered, the air grew cold, and suddenly, before her very eyes, he began to fade. His robes fluttered, his body shimmered like mist. The drums outside seemed to grow distant, as though swallowed by another world. Then, in one breath, the stranger vanished into thin air. A scream tore through Oma's throat, a cry that split the night. For at her feet, where her husband had stood, there was nothing but a dark pool of blood spreading fast across the floor. The villagers rushed in, their voices rising in shock and terror. Women wailed, men gasped, children clung to their mothers. But Chief Anine raised his arms, his voice like iron. "Silence! This is the way of the gods. Do not question it." The people froze, torn between fear and obedience. The pool of blood shimmered in the torchlight, thick and heavy with the smell of iron, but no one dared speak further. That night, the village went to bed in uneasy silence. And soon after, whispers began. Strange misfortunes fell upon Anane's household. Goats sickened and died without cause. His barns, once overflowing with yam, rotted from within. His children grew pale and restless in their sleep, waking with cries of unseen hands clutching at their throats. Even his wives whispered of shadows moving through the compound at night. But still, Anine silenced them all. "It is nothing," he said. "The gods favor me. This is the price of greatness." Yet deep in her heart, Oma knew the truth. The wedding feast had not ended with dance and wine. It had ended with a curse, one that dripped, slow and merciless, into the blood of her family. Please subscribe, comment your interest for the next part, like, share, and tap the notification button to get notified for more. Thanks for watching.